So Barcelona win 2-1 against Celta Vigo thanks to a Lewandowski penalty in the 96th minute that he got to retake. Obviously, that's great to get the win, but there's really not that much to be proud of from that performance. It was really dull, it was really boring, but luckily Barcelona get the 3 points anyways, and you just have to look forward to that game against Napoli and take the positives away from that game. But honestly, there's not that much to be proud of from that performance because it's just so dull. It just looks lifeless, and I think a lot of the players on Barcelona, they just don't believe in themselves. They just look lost right now. It just looks like players are running around the field with no sense of direction, and I think that is poor coaching. That's, in my opinion, that's what that is. But then again, when you have that much quality on the field, you also can't excuse the players' performances. They just look out of it. They don't look like they really believe in Barcelona getting a win in that game. They just look like they go into that game thinking, let's just not mess up too bad. Let's just scrape by with maybe let's try and get a win, or we can get a draw. That's okay. But you have to go into every single game looking to dominate the entire game and control large parts of the game, and Barcelona just don't do that. They run around with no sense of direction, and it's going to cost Barcelona later into this season if nothing changes. But given Barcelona's current situation with Xavi leaving, I think the players right now and Xavi, they just want to get to the end of the season. They're not looking to make some drastic change in the way that they play. Really, they're just trying to get to the end of the season, and that's not the way that Barcelona should go about it, because every other team in the world, every other top team is competing for trophies. They're going to be competing until the end of the season, but Barcelona right now, they don't look like they're going to be. That first goal, that was just a moment of brilliance from Lewandowski, and I think he deserves a lot of credit because he did win Barcelona that game. That goal in the first half was incredible, and then also that penalty, it's not easy to take that in the 96th minute, and of course he missed the first one, but the goalie was off his line. He got to retake it, and he put it in the exact same spot that he got it saved on, so that's pretty calm of him to do that. And of course, Iago Aspas scoring for Celta Vigo against Barcelona. We all had a feeling that was going to happen, and of course it did. It was a good goal from him. Koundé pretty unfortunate to try and block it, and it just goes over Ter Stegen's head. But Iago Aspas, that's not surprising that he scored against Barcelona. And the most frustrating thing about this game is that Barcelona games, they're supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be enjoyable to watch, but during that entire game, it just didn't look like the players cared to score. They didn't look like they were really trying. So for the spectators, it's just not enjoyable to watch when Barcelona's own players just don't have any freedom and they don't have any enjoyment in themselves. That it's never going to work for Barcelona, and that's the true mentality change that Barcelona needs, is to go into every game trying to enjoy the sport that they play. Right now, it doesn't look like it. And right now, Barcelona really are struggling, and of course, that penalty in the 96th minute, it was great from Lamine Yamal to get in that position. It was really unfortunate for the Celta Vigo player, and I would classify that penalty as lucky for Barcelona, and I think realistically, they should have drawn that game, but a penalty just basically out of nowhere because it was just a long ball. Lamine Yamal was tracking it pretty well, and the Celta Vigo defender took his eye off of it, but it was fortunate for Barcelona to get that penalty and then go on and win the game from there. And players like Cancelo, Pedri, Koundé, I expect a lot more in those types of games because it's against the 17th place in La Liga. No offense to Celta Vigo, because I really think they did deserve a draw in that game. It was pretty fortunate for Barcelona to get that penalty in the last minute, even though, of course, it was a penalty. And I'm not trying to be too negative. It was great that Barcelona got the win, and hopefully that is a big confidence booster going into that game against Napoli. But I just think overall that performance, they cannot be proud of that, and I don't think anyone at Barcelona is. And it's been a pretty common theme for Barcelona this season to make it easy for the other team, because defensively, they're all over the place. Any counterattack looks dangerous for the other team, but for Barcelona, they don't pose any threat going forward, and their midfield is not controlling anything. There's no structure there, and that's why I think Barcelona are struggling so much in so many games recently. And there's so many ways to describe Barcelona, but disorganized, that's the biggest one for me, and I just think that's due to a lack of coaching from Xavi. I don't really know what happened from last year to this year. I don't know if the players' performances fell off so hard from last year to this year. I don't really know what happened, but overall, the team just does not look good enough for all the quality that they have. They just look all over the place, and no one is playing to their strengths besides Lamine Yamal. And talking about that starting lineup, I think Xavi did take a risk by playing with 3 attackers, because I thought it was more likely that he was going to play with 4 midfielders and put Gundogan on instead of Vitor Roque, but he trusted Vitor Roque, and I think a lot of people are going to talk about Vitor Roque's performance, but I'm not too worried about it. I think Vitor Roque is going to be a great player for Barcelona. He just had an off game. His touches were off, but that's okay. We also have to keep in mind, Vitor Roque is a center forward. He's a true center forward. He is not good on the wing. He's not good at taking people on. He's good at getting in the box and posing a threat in that area, and I think he did good at that today, even though his touches were a little bit off. And I think his finishing would be better on some other days. But again, it's just an off day, and that's completely fine. We've seen what Vitor Roque can do. And I'm going to say it because it bothers me, but Lewandowski, even though he scored 2 goals today, I'm not going to slander him too much for that performance, but just his reaction to the players missing him on a pass. He's asking for the ball every single time he gets it, but this season, when Barcelona have passed the ball to Lewandowski, he has lost it. He has not made a good touch. He's lost possession of it. So when he's getting mad at Vitor Roque for not finding him or for taking a bad touch, I mean, if he got that same treatment from his players earlier in this season, it would have been a long day for Lewandowski. And that's just not good for his confidence. He's like yelling at Vitor Roque for a missed touch. Yeah, it was a missed touch. That's completely fine. I'm not too worried about it. And there are a lot of reports that Lewandowski is a good leader in the dressing room, but just his on-field antics, that it does make me mad because I just think he struggled so much in the last year, and his teammates have never reacted towards him, but every single time his teammate messes up or doesn't give him the ball, he's like, what are you doing? Come on, pass me the ball. We saw how good you were at the beginning of this season. I don't think you're that entitled to receive the ball every single time you're open. That's my opinion. But he had a great goal today, and he scored the penalty to win the game for Barcelona, and he kept his head because, when you get a retake on the same goalkeeper, that's a really difficult situation to be in. But he kept his head. He went the same exact way, and I appreciate that from him because he did win the game for Barcelona, of course. But it's just been the same old for Barcelona. I was watching other games today, the Bayer Leverkusen game. Of course, they're one of the best teams in the world. You don't want to compare them to Barcelona right now in a really bad situation, but they just look like they're enjoying it, and they have a sense of direction. They have a game plan going into every single game, and they execute it really well. Barcelona never does. And you look at all the other top teams around the world. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with, some wrong refereeing decisions. That's okay. They don't make excuses. They still go out there and look like they're enjoying their play. Like, they actually look like they want to be on the field. But for Barcelona, that's never been the case this season. And to be honest, in that game against Napoli, there can be a couple directions that the game can go. I think if Barcelona plays to their full potential and Xavi goes into that game with a great game plan, which I think he's asking for a lot for Barcelona. No offense to Xavi and his coaching staff, but I think that's asking a lot for Barcelona given the way that they've been coached this season. But Barcelona does have a chance against Napoli. Napoli's not in the best run of form themselves, and Barcelona, given the talent that they have in the team, if they make the most of it, if they have players like Lamine Yamal shining and winning the game for Barcelona, then they have a chance to go through. But right now, the way that they've been playing, it would be difficult to go up against one of the best teams in Europe and find a way to go through. And I would say even if Barcelona are in their best run of form in La Liga, I just think with the mentality that the players have sometimes, just to drop their heads so easily when they're down in a game, I just think that in the round of 16 of the Champions League, it's not going to work if you go further along in that tournament. And I definitely agree that Xavi is not getting the most out of his players. But again, the players on the field, they can't escape blame because they just look like they're making just such lazy mistakes. And they don't look like they're giving 100% every single game when a lot of the players aren't safe at Barcelona. If I was in that position, I would be giving 110% every single week because I know I might be sold in the summer. I think there are a couple players on Barcelona that are 100% completely safe. But Barcelona, with the way that they've been playing, they have to make a lot of changes in the summer. And I hope the players know that. And it was important to get a win for Barcelona. I think, again, the confidence booster going into that game against Napoli. It was great to get 3 points, but I don't think the players are going to feel super confident given the way that they performed and played in that game. And for La Liga, I've said it before, but it's less about how you play right now because you know that Xavi is leaving in the summer. You basically have to get till the end of the season and get top 4. That's your priority for Barcelona, but I think they're maybe thinking that too literally every single time they come onto the field. They're just like, all right, let's get through it. We don't have to play great. Let's just get through it. Let's maybe try and grab a winner. But that's not how you should be playing. You should be enjoying it at least. Every single time you step on the field, you should be looking like you want to get a win. That's bare minimum. So it's great for the Champions League qualification going into next season. It's great to get 3 points there, but Barcelona's performance, of course, I think everyone knows that was not very convincing, and Barcelona easily could have drawn that game if not for a last-minute penalty in the 96th minute, basically out of nowhere because the Celta Vigo player just lost track of the ball, and he was so focused on the ball that he lost track of everyone around him, and he just kicked Yamal. So it was a penalty, but of course, it was pretty fortunate for Barcelona to get that. But looking at this entire season, I think I can name about 5 games that Barcelona have played where I've actually been excited and enjoying watching the entire 90 minutes, where it's an actual show. Like you're watching to be enjoyed. Other than that, Barcelona, I really just think looks so boring and lifeless, and they just look like they don't care to be there. And that was the case today. I think honestly this season it's just been a snowball effect where every single bad performance and all the toxicity around the club right now, and with Xavi announcing he's leaving, I think the players just don't have it in them right now, but there are still months to go until the season ends. You cannot be clocked out in February. That's inexcusable. That's terrible. And I hope for Barcelona, the players were just saving their energy for that game against Napoli. Let's just say that that's what they were doing. And hopefully we have a good performance against Napoli, because if you go out like that against Napoli, it's not going to work out, and you're going to be out of the round of 16 of the Champions League. Do Barcelona have a chance? Of course they have a chance against Napoli. If they play close to their best, I think they will go through. But that's the big question. Can they get the most out of their players? Can Xavi have a good game plan going into the game? Can the defense actually look structured? Or are they going to look all over the place? Can the midfield actually dominate a game? Or are they just going to look lost? Or are they going to look like they don't have a sense of direction in the game? And is the attack actually going to show up? We're just going to have to see. And in this game against Celta Vigo, there's really nothing groundbreaking to take away from it. But that's the problem for Barcelona, because we've had 20-plus games exactly like this, where Barcelona's team just looks lifeless. It looks boring. And that's just not how Barcelona should be playing, again, with all the quality that they have in the team. But even though the performance wasn't great, to get a win in the last minute, I think that will be a big confidence booster going into that game against Napoli. Let's just forget the performance. Let's think, how can we play? Let's not think about how we've played this season. How can we play, and how can we go into that game against Napoli? That's what they should be thinking. And of course, I watch and keep up with Barcelona much more than any other club in the world. But think about all those other teams in the round of 16. Do you think any of those clubs in the round of 16 are as clocked out and ready for the summer as Barcelona are? Of course not, because all the other clubs in the competition, they know this is prime time. They know this is the peak of the season. But for Barcelona, it doesn't seem like it. There is no other club in that competition that's waiting for the summer. They are all excited and eager to play in these games. For Barcelona, I just think they're trying to make it to the end of the season. They're already done. They've already thrown in the towel. That's inexcusable. When you're in the round of 16 of the Champions League, you should be excited. You should be ready to play in that game. But instead, Barcelona are already preparing for the summer. And the performance overall, there aren't that many positives to take away from that game. But again, the result, it's important to get that before that game against Napoli. Hopefully that's a confidence booster. Hopefully the players just forget about the performance and they just look at the result and they think, we can do this. We can actually win a game. Wow. We can score more than one goal in a game. Let's try and do that against Napoli. Why not? And I think all of us are excited about that game against Napoli. And I think if Barcelona get close to their best, if they start playing towards their potential, they have the ability to go through out of the round of 16. But for right now, if they continue to play like they have for the majority of this season, they're going to struggle in that game. But overall, not the best performance. Again, it was important to get 3 points, and all of us are just looking forward to that game against Napoli. And hopefully Barcelona have a really good performance in that game. And even though the club is struggling right now, Visca Barca, and I do really appreciate everyone that watches my video, and Barcelona will be back. It's going to take a while, but Barcelona will be back.